What's for dinner, Kathy?
Well, hello everybody, and welcome to What's for Dinner. And today I decided I was in the mood to make cabbage rolls. Yep, the old dreaded Hungarian cabbage rolls. It's quite a few steps in doing this, so I'll try and help you follow along, and we'll make our cabbage rolls. There's several different steps to doing this, so I'll try and get this in the right order. Right now, first of all, I did was put my cabbage in boiling water. As you can see, I would need the cabbage leaves to get soft, and so I can roll them. So they're in a little bit of salted water there, as you can see. And then I'm going to make my mixture. But be sure when you put your cabbage down in the water that you core out the middle, that big thing in the middle of it. Core that out with your knife, just kind of round it off and core that middle part out, and let it cook for about 12 minutes, and we'll get that cabbage soft so we can roll those leaves. And then, let's see here, I cut up one medium onion. I used to work in a restaurant in Ohio, and I worked with this old gal named Ethel. She was from Hungary, and she made Hungarian cabbage rolls for the restaurant, and I was her little sous chef, so to speak, and she taught me how to make a lot of this stuff for the restaurant, so I like to bring it home now and then and make some here at home. She would make 100 at a time, but for here, I'm only going to try and make about 10, because I'm the only one that makes them, that eats them. So I'm going to try and make about 10 of them and then freeze some so I can have them whenever I want them. So first of all, we'll get our stuff going on the inside. First of all, put a little bit of oil in the skillet. And then I'm using about 1/3 of a cup of rice. Hard rice. I just poured some rice in my cup here. And then I chopped up 2 cloves of garlic and 1 medium onion. I'm going to try and figure this out how to do it for about 10 servings, 10 rolls. So let's see here. And then, for our insides, I have 1 pound of ground pork and 1 pound of ground beef. I used the 93% ground beef. I didn't want it to be greasy. So, and I put some salt and pepper in just to taste. So that's 1 pound of ground beef and 1 pound of pork, ground pork. And then, first of all, we want to cook our onions. We get these going. Now we want the rice to get, I'm going to pour my rice right in on top of my onions in oil there. We want to try and kind of brown those onions a little bit, and we're going to kind of brown the rice too. Cook the rice on the outside so we get the oil and the onion flavor mixed in with the rice. So we'll let this cook here. Get it going. We'll add our garlic after we get everything browned here. We don't want to burn our garlic, so because garlic turns bitter when you burn it. So we'll get these onions to where they're translucent. So remember, I'm trying to make about 10, so I'm trying to figure all this out of how to bring this down from 100 to 10. Big difference. So we got our rice and our onions, 1 medium onion. we got that cooking. And I'm going to put a couple sprinkles of paprika into the mixture. Burn it. There's different kinds of cabbage rolls, but like I said, these are Hungarian. We're going to put sauerkraut and tomatoes on them when we cook them. So let's use it. Turn the heat down a little bit. Let this rice absorb those flavors. Remember, this is hard rice. It's non-cooked rice. So don't cook your rice and put it in. It's non-cooked. Hard rice. We're trying to get the flavors to get in there first. Okay, and I want to get now I think our cabbage rolls our cabbage is done. Let me pull this out of here. Yeah, it's nice and soft. It's not going to be easy. This is a different kind of cabbage I saw at the grocery. It's flattened. Whoops, am I steaming you up there? Turn it upside down and drain the water out. We want our leaves to come off. I saw this cabbage here, and the guy at the grocery in the vegetable department didn't know what kind it was. But you can use regular cabbage. But this was, if you notice, this is flattened. It's like a flattened cabbage, and I thought, oh, that'd be great for my, look how big the leaves are. Perfect for cabbage rolls, you know. See how big the leaves are? And it's flat. So we'll leave that cool for a while so I can work with it. Turn that fire off. And let's see. Okay, as you see, that's nice and brown. The onions are translucent, and the rice has picked up the flavor of that paprika and the onions. So now I'm putting my garlic in last because I don't want it to burn. Keep mixing it up. But we want the rice to cook a little bit. And remember, I put like a half a teaspoon of paprika in here. And as you can see, the rice is turning brown, which is what we want. It's kind of like pre-cooked. It'll give it more flavor in the cabbage rolls. Okay, so we're going to stop here and let this cool, and let my cabbage leaves cool. And we'll start on our next step. Okay, and now for our next step. The rice has cooled off. The rice and onion and garlic mixture has cooled off. And we're going to put it into our meat mixture of our pork and hamburger. And just kind of pour it right on top there. Remember to let it cool off first. And then just sort of mix this in, blend it all together so rice gets throughout the mixture. And again, so you don't forget, that's a pound of rice, pound of pork and a pound of hamburger, good hamburger. And just kind of mix that up with the onions and the rice so it's evenly separated. You know, everything's in there throughout everything. I use my hands, I don't care. And just keep blending that up so everything's in there and looks good and mixed. As you see, we got rice throughout and onion and that paprika all throughout the meat. Okay, now for our next procedure. Okay, now that we have all that mixed up, our meat ready to go, our next procedure is to make the kraut and the tomatoes that go on top of it. But I need to start it now so it can slow cook for a while for when we're ready to start cooking the cabbage rolls. So what I've done, I'm trying to narrow it down again for 10 cabbage rolls, or about that many, is I use 1 can of sauerkraut, okay? I put it into my pot. I use 1 can of diced tomatoes into my pot. I use half a can of tomato paste, half a can into my pot. I use 1 tablespoon of sugar to help counter that. Now what a lot of people do at this point of it is chop up some of the cabbage and put it into the kraut mixture. I don't do that. I like it the full Monty, so to speak. But here's our sauce that we're going to put on top of the cabbage rolls. That's the sauerkraut, the tomatoes, and I'm going to put that on, get that going, boiling a little bit, and then put that on low to simmer it so it can cook. Now you have the option, which Ethel never used, of cooking up some bacon, frying some bacon, and letting it get good and crisp, and chopping it up and putting some of the bacon grease, and just finally chop up that bacon and putting it in on top of the kraut here. I never liked that, and she never used it, she said, but it's an option if you want to try it. That's about 4 pieces of bacon, she said, and just chop it up. I would use half that amount. I would use 2 pieces of bacon, and see how that goes. Now we'll get that cooking, because that's got to cook a little bit. We want some of those flavors to marry. Now, my cabbage is done. Like I said, and I put a half a cup of a cup of tomato juice in the sauce, in the sauerkraut mixture also. That was a cup of tomato juice. So it has a real good tomatoey flavor. So now I have it going on and it's in there. Just a recap, 1 can of diced tomatoes, 1 can of sauerkraut, half a can of tomato paste, and 1 cup of tomato juice. And let that cook for a while. It'll start bubbling, then just turn it down to low and let it cook a while. Okay. After going through it, my cabbage is done, and I let it cool a little bit so I can handle it. It's falling apart. But I wanted to show you what you need to do to each lettuce leaf. You take your knife, and you know where that thick vein is here on the cabbage. You're just going to try and cut that out a little bit so your cabbage will roll. And like in a square, you know, just cut off the end. And here's another one. See that big vein that comes up from the cabbage? Just take your knife right beside the big vein and cut it off, and it leaves about like a square there. And we're ready to, sometimes they'll just fall apart, so you'll have to do what you can do to put pieces together. Okay, welcome back. Now for the next procedure. This is a lot of procedures, but believe me, it's worth it. The stuff tastes so good, and this sauerkraut and tomatoes, oh, smells heavenly. Okay, I have my cabbage leaves all setting out here, and I take a handful and I kind of like in a ball first, and then I do long ways, so it looks kind of like a football. So for the size, put it down in there, roll it, and then I tuck my sides in. You want to see so nothing can come out. Now those are pretty nice sized cabbage rolls, see? Let's do another one here. Roll it in a ball, and then back and forth like so to make like almost like a football. Put it on your leaf, and you got to figure out, hold it halfway over, flip the sides in so nothing can get out, and then just continue rolling. And as you see, there's your cabbage roll. Excuse my mess, this is the way I cook. Okay, roll it in a ball, then like a football. Check out your lettuce leaf. Now sometimes if your leaf isn't big enough, you can add pieces on to make it a little thicker. That's what I like to do. Just fold your sides in, and then roll like a football, so it's sealed up. Now after we get those made, we want to take some Pam and spray your glass, your Pyrex or whatever you're going to use. Or you can use a Dutch oven. That's good, and you can shove them in the oven, in a Dutch oven. But first of all, what you want to do, okay, this has been cooking a while. Is take some of your juice and put it on the bottom of the pot. You don't want everything to stick. So I usually put some down here. That's what Ethel used to do in the big pots at the restaurant. But it just kind of keeps it from sticking. Then you can use a couple pieces of your smaller cabbage leaves like this. Put it on. Make a little bed for it, so to speak, for your cabbage rolls. And it can always be eaten later. You know, it's all going to be good. Flatten those out to make a little bed for your cabbage rolls. Then you lay them. Try to keep it like at least a quarter of an inch or a half an inch from the walls of the dish you're doing. Like that. And then put them down in here, like so. I'll make up a few more here, and then we'll get them in the dish. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I made 8. If you have a bigger baking dish or something bigger, you can layer these. What we used to do in the restaurant is layer them. You have your first layer all around at the bottom of the pot, and then you put your sauce on like so. Oh, these smell delicious. Believe it or not, somebody asked me to make these, so shout out to Wendy. These are your Hungarian cabbage rolls. Just cover them like that. Now I usually try to keep a little bit left in the pot, so when I freeze them, I put them in like 2 to a baggie. I put them down in the baggie, and then I add some juice to it, so you have that juice, that sauerkraut with it. When you go to serve it, you know, when you heat them up, you let them thaw out a day ahead in the refrigerator to let them naturally thaw in the fridge. And then when you come home from work, or like, you can stick them in the microwave, probably for about, I would say, 5 to 8 minutes after they're thawed. Or just keep checking them, because they're already going to be cooked. You just want them to get warmed. So I'd say about 5 minutes. And boy, those look good and they smell delicious. I'm so glad I made these. Thanks, Wendy. And you know, you can serve them. I usually make mashed potatoes with this. Now, homemade mashed potatoes, you know, the real thing. And then I serve them like one on each side of the plate, and then I put a pile of mashed potatoes in the middle, in between the rolls, and put a little bit of the juice, the dressing juice, on top of the mashed potatoes. Oh my gosh, talking heaven there, eating good. Okay, I'm going to put these are slow cooked, so I want to put them in the oven on 350. I'm going to cook them for about an hour to an hour and a half. I want them to get good and done, and let all those juices and everything float. So as soon as they're done, I'll show you what they look like. I'll see you in a little bit. Okay, thanks. The cabbage rolls are in the oven. They're cooking for about an hour and a half. What I also did, I wanted to remind you, if they look like they're going to be a little dry, pour some more tomato juice down in there so you have plenty of juices. So whenever they look a little dry, you can check it like midway and see how they're doing. If it doesn't look like they're very moist, pour some tomato juice down in there, all around it. And remember, try to keep them off the sides of the walls so they don't burn to the walls. And I'll let you know when. Okay, I wanted to give you a look-see about halfway through. We're about halfway through. And look at, try not to melt the camera in the oven if you can see that. Look how good those look. And there's plenty of juice in there. I can see all those juices. And the house smells marvelous. So, as soon as we can, excuse me for moving you here, we'll let you see the final rendition, and then I'll cut one open for you and let you take a look inside, and we'll see what they look like. Okay? They're about halfway through. House smells like Hungarian cabbage rolls. Okay, see you shortly. Bye-bye. Okay, welcome back. Well, here is our cabbage rolls. They're done. I left them in for an hour and a half. I wanted to make sure that rice got done. So I'm putting one into the bowl. And of course I want some of that juice. When I see how nice and neat everything is. Now you let those cool, or you can serve with your mashed potatoes and gravy, or mashed potatoes. Then put some of the juice on top. Let's get a spoon and see how everything looks. We'll cut into it. Oh boy, it sure smells good. And we look inside, everything is done. Then we'll taste it. Oh man, that is good. Now I wish I had made me some mashed potatoes. But anyway, here we go. Everything is just, see everything, the rice is soft, everything just tastes just perfect. That was an hour and a half. So that's probably your time instead of an hour. The rice got real soft. But here we go. That is your cabbage rolls. Hungarian cabbage roll recipe. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment area, and I'll answer them the best I can. And if you make some, let me know how they turn out, okay? But these are delicious. I know you'll love them. I know I did. I know people waited in line outside the restaurant to get in the door to get to these. So there you go. Have a good day, and I'll see you next video. Bye-bye.